Welcome to this podcast episode brought to you by AGS Agriculture Global Solutions, your partner for better farming practices.
It's great to be here.
So today, we're opening up a really interesting file. It's a comprehensive agronomic study that was conducted in Riau, Indonesia.
Right. And I know some listeners might hear Indonesia and think it's not relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so important because the landscapes, especially the peatlands, are, well, they're a mirror image of what so many of us are farming on.
The biology is identical. The needs of the oil palm don't change across a border.
And we should mention, this data is about 6 years old now.
But the biological facts, the agronomic realities, they haven't changed. An oil palm gets hungry for the same things today as it did back then.
And tragically, the mistakes also seem to be the same.
That's the key. This study looked specifically at independent smallholders, but it didn't just, group them all together.
No, it broke them down into 7 different types.
Everything from a local farmer with a couple of hectares to the large investors with 50 or even 100 hectares.
And that's really the mission for us today, isn't it? To test that common assumption.
The capital equals yield idea.
Right. The belief that the person with a big bank account, the investor from the city, must be getting better tonnage because they could just buy their way to success.
It makes sense on the surface. You see the fancy truck, you assume they have the best of everything.
But the data just blows that assumption out of the water.
It really does.
So let's get right to it. Who actually won the yield game in this study?
Well, that's the headline. Nobody won.
Nobody.
The yields were consistently poor across all 7 groups. We're talking averages way, way below the potential of 20 to 30 tons per hectare.
Even the big investors, the ones who should have economies of scale.
Even them. In fact, on peat soils, the large investor group performed really poorly.
So what does that tell us?
It tells us something really important. Money doesn't grow trees. Management grows trees.
So there's this low input, low output trap that just catches everyone.
It seems so, regardless of how much money you have in the bank.
That's actually encouraging in a way.
Yeah.
It means a smallholder listening right now isn't doomed just because they're not a millionaire.
Absolutely. It levels the playing field.
But it also raises a huge question. If everyone is underperforming, why? Is it just that we're starving the trees?
That's always the first place you look. And the study found something fascinating about how farmers fertilize.
Okay.
When they analyzed the leaf nutrients, nitrogen levels were actually pretty decent for most groups.
Which makes a certain kind of sense, right? Nitrogen is usually urea. You put it down, and a few weeks later.
You get that deep, lush green color.
Exactly. It's satisfying. You feel like you're doing a good job because the tree looks healthy.
It's what I call the green lie. You see the greens, so you keep buying the urea.
But the study found a critical, invisible mistake happening.
A huge one. While nitrogen was okay, potassium levels were critically low. Dangerously low.
What do you mean by dangerously low? Are we talking a little bit off?
No, we're talking starvation levels. The data showed that less than a quarter of the farmers applied enough potassium to support a yield of even 20 tons per hectare.
Less than 25%.
And if you look just at the small local farmers, they were applying an average of only 32.1 kilograms of potassium per hectare per year.
Wait, 32 kilograms? For a whole hectare? For
Right.
a whole year? That's almost nothing.
It's doing virtually nothing, and this is where the biology just gets you. Nitrogen grows the green parts, the leaves, the trunk.
The factory.
But potassium, your MOP, that's what drives the fruit. It dictates the bunch weight, the bunch number.
So we're building these big, beautiful green factories with urea.
But we're not delivering any raw materials to the assembly line to actually make the product.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You're just growing a very expensive ornamental palm.
You've got great vegetative growth, but your reproductive output is, 0.
So why is this happening? Is it purely a cost thing?
Cost is part of it for sure, but it's mostly an awareness gap. You don't see potassium working until much later.
Right. Urea gives you that instant gratification.
Exactly. MOP gives you profit months and months down the line. It takes discipline.
The takeaway here seems really clear then. Go check your fertilizer shed. If it's stacked with urea, but you've only got 1 or 2 bags of MOP.
You're walking right into that yield trap. You have to rebalance. It's just simple math. You can't get 25 tons out if you don't put the potassium in.
Now, speaking of wasted money, the study pointed out another fertilizer mistake, this one specifically on peat soil.
Yes, the dolomite issue.
On mineral soils, we use dolomite to fix acidity, to raise the pH.
Correct. But peat is a completely different animal. It has what we call a high buffering capacity.
Break that down for us. What does that mean in simple terms?
It means peat is incredibly stubborn. You can throw tons of dolomite at it, and the pH will barely move.
So the study found farmers were just wasting it.
They were over-applying it, thinking they were fixing the soil. But the pH wasn't really changing, and magnesium wasn't the main problem anyway.
So they were burning cash.
Worse than that, they were spending their limited budget on dolomite that should have been spent on potassium.
Ah, so it's that allocation error again.
It is. On peat, you generally need less nitrogen, but you need a lot more potassium. So the instruction for farmers on peat is crystal clear.
Stop guessing.
And if your budget is tight, swap the dolomite for MOP. Start feeding the fruit, not fighting the pH.
Okay, let's move from the food to the tree itself, the genetics. The study called this the hidden thief. We're talking about dura contamination.
This is the real tragedy of the sector. We all know we want tenera palms. That's the hybrid with the thin shell and thick, oily flesh.
Dura is the old type. Thick shell, not much oil.
And the study found that most smallholder plots had more than 50% dura palms.
50%. More than half the trees were the wrong type.
It's unbelievable. It's like planting a rubber tree that only produces latex half the time.
How does this even happen?
It's the roadside trader, the guy in the truck with a convincing smile. Farmers try to save a little money up front on seedlings.
And end up paying for it for the next 25 years.
But I've heard the argument from farmers. They say, I like my dura trees.
Oh, I've heard this too. It's because of the scales, right?
It is. It's the heavy nut trap. A dura bunch is heavy. It's like a rock. So if you're selling by weight,
You think you're winning.
it's an illusion. That bunch has 30% less oil. And the mills know this. If they're getting a lot of dura from one area, their extraction rate drops.
And the mill manager is not going to lose money.
Of course not. They'll just lower the price for everyone in that district to protect their own margin.
So by planting dura, you're actually hurting yourself and your neighbors in the long run.
You're driving down the whole regional price. Not to mention certified tenera is bred for higher yields anyway.
So the advice here is, well, it's non-negotiable.
Zero tolerance. If you are replanting, you must buy certified seeds from a reputable source. Full stop.
Because you can't manage your way out of bad genetics.
Never.
All right, another structural thing the study brought up was the planting pattern, the geometry of the field.
Yes, the square versus the triangle.
I see a lot of small holdings planted in neat squares. It looks very tidy.
It looks great, and it's easier to set up, but biologically, it's inefficient. Oil palm trees should be in a triangular pattern.
Why does the shape matter so much?
It's all about sunlight. An oil palm is a giant solar panel. In a square pattern, you get weird gaps where sun hits the ground.
And feeds the weeds.
Right. And at the same time, the fronds on the sides overlap too much and shade each other out. So you get competition and waste happening at the same time.
A triangular pattern fixes that.
It's the most efficient way to pack circles into a space. It maximizes the sunlight each tree gets. More sun means more photosynthesis, which means more oil.
Okay, but if I'm listening and my field is already 10 years old and planted in squares, I can't just move the trees.
No, you can't. But you have to change how you prune.
Be more aggressive.
Much more aggressive. You have to open up that canopy because the competition for light is so intense you can't afford to have any parasitic lower fronds.
So square plantings mean tighter pruning, and if you're replanting...
Triangular. No question. Don't let anyone talk you into squares just because it's easier to stake out.
Let's go back to the ground now. The study compared farmers on mineral soils versus those on peat. We talked chemistry, but what about just the physical infrastructure?
This was a huge deal. The yield gap on peat was significant, consistently lower than mineral soil, and a lot of it came down to logistics.
The roads.
The roads. Especially during the rainy season, peat roads can just disappear.
Become rivers of mud.
And that hits you twice.
Wow.
We always think about getting the FFB out. If the truck can't get in, your fruit rots.
You lose your income immediately.
But we forget about getting the inputs in. If the road is impassable during a key fertilizing window,
You miss it.
you miss it. You delay the application by 2, maybe 3 months, the tree gets stressed, and you pay the price 6 or 12 months down the line when the bunches don't develop.
So the road is basically part of the fertilizer program.
It is, and the advice is that farming on peat requires you to reallocate your capital. You have to prioritize road maintenance and water management.
Fix the hole in the road before you buy the extra fertilizer.
Because if the truck can't get to the block, the fertilizer doesn't matter.
So true. The study also touched on some missing opportunities. Basically, things being wasted.
Yes, like empty fruit bunch, EFB. It's amazing organic matter, but the study found its use was very rare among smallholders.
I guess transport is the barrier. It's so bulky.
It is. But this is where cooperatives or just working together can help. If you can make a deal with the mill to bring back EFB when you drop off your fruit, you should do it.
And then what about the weeds on the ground?
Well, most farmers did a good job keeping weeds down, but almost no one was using legume cover crops.
And a lot of them have that scorched earth policy. They spray everything until it's just bare red soil.
Which is a disaster. The soil gets hot, the microbes die, and you get terrible erosion.
So what's the right balance?
You want to keep the soft weeds. Things like ferns are your friends. They hold the soil and keep it cool.
But get rid of the woody shrubs.
Exactly. Kill the competition, but keep the ground covered. Think of it as a living mulch.
This has been incredibly useful. It just completely shatters that myth that having money makes you a good farmer.
It really does. The so-called rich investors were making the same basic mistakes as everyone else. Skipping potassium, planting dura.
It proves that a high yield is available to anyone who pays attention to the details.
It's not about buying success, it's about managing for it.
So let's wrap this up with a clear to-do list. If you're heading out to the field tomorrow morning, what are the top 3 things to check?
First, go to your fertilizer store. Look at the labels. Are you just feeding your trees nitrogen? You must check that your potassium inputs match your yield targets. Look at your canopy. Are your trees fighting for light? If you have a square planting, you have to be extra vigilant with your pruning. Let the light in.
And the third.
Plan for the future. If you're even thinking about replanting, just remember 2 words. Certified tenera. Don't let a roadside trader sell you 25 years of regret.
And I'd add for the peat farmers, fix that road before the rainy season arrives.
Absolutely. Access is everything.
You know, here's a final thought. We talked about how yields are low across the board. If every smallholder listening just fixed their potassium deficiency, just that one thing,
The impact would be enormous.
we could increase the national output by a huge amount without clearing a single extra hectare of land. It's an efficiency revolution, and it's sitting right there in your fertilizer bag.
That's a powerful thought. It's about better management, not more land.
Remember to visit our AI farming assistant at cropdrive.ai to learn more on how to increase your oil palm yields and incomes. Thanks for listening.